is up? Whoa. What is up, App Nation? It is Steve P. Young, founder of appmasters.com, the place you go when you want action-packed content related to helping you grow your app downloads and your revenues. And today I've got a phenomenal guest. I'm super excited to talk to him because, I'm interested in the strategies. When you think about brands versus like from a generic, let's use ASO, for example, like Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, they all have more brand awareness than online dating. More people are searching for the brands versus dating. So, what are the smaller brands? What are they doing that really lead to breakout success? And breaking down those strategies with me is Greg Wester. He is the CMO. Let me pull it up of the on-device division at Digital Turbine. Did I do that right, Greg? You messed me
You
up.
got
Now
it.
Greg.
You nailed it. Hey, we're off to a great start. Steve, it's a pleasure to be here with you and marketing with Steve. First, a little bit of mea culpa. I know I stood you up. I hate standing people up. I stood you up a couple
That's
weeks ago. I had an emergency, actually with my dog, which we can get into afterwards. But glad to be here. Sorry to put you off the last time.
It's okay. It happens. I completely understand. What's up, Samuel? Good to see you week in, week out. Adrian's here all the way from Ireland. Greg. And then we've got Romano and then Joe, who's out in India, I believe. Hey, we're going to be breaking down this report, guys, the Bragg Index, so you can figure that out. You can get that at Digital Turbine as well. But it's a report that they did with Apptopia as well, and then we're going to kind of be breaking this down. So go ahead. That report is linked up into the YouTube description if you want to go download it, and you just got to put in a couple of more information. But really great report there. All right, Greg, I'll follow your lead. Where do you want to start?
Awesome. I guess I'll just kick it off at a pretty high level.
Yeah.
Awesome to have you guys on the line with us here today. I'm going to start off with a question, or an ask, I guess. Maybe you guys are old enough to know John Wanamaker, but if you're not, I bet most of you guys could probably complete one of his most famous expressions, which was, "Half the money I spend in advertising is wasted." Steve, do you know the other half of that?
What is the other half?
The other half is, but I don't know what half works. What half of my advertising actually works, right? And
Right.
that's kind of the challenge. That was the challenge back when he said it. It was the days of radio and days of print, and that's when most of marketing and advertising was really what I'll call art based, right? The digital space and the mobile space in particular has obviously been much more science, with AEIDs in existence and IDFAs in existence. But now, as those things start to wane and possibly disappear, this issue of the importance of brand in driving installs, as you were saying, Steve, really becomes increasingly important. And what we really wanted to do was, in this world of changing identification and attribution, start to provide the industry really a new way of looking at what's happening and what's driving installs, and in particular, who is doing what in a manner that is having them really drive installs better than others. So the first question that folks might have about Bragg is, cool name, but what the hell does Bragg actually stand for? So, a word on that. So Bragg stands for brand relative app growth. And you nailed it, Steve, right up front, saying that, a retailer that is selling tennis rackets out of Brooklyn doesn't have the brand awareness, obviously, that an Amazon does. So it should be no surprise that they're driving a lot less installs than Amazon does. So you're not really going to find anything by looking at the standard reports of who's driving the installs. So what we really wanted to do was create a way of comparing Davids to Davids and Goliaths to Goliaths, and then finding the folks that are punching above their weight, so to speak, and driving installs in ways that their competition haven't really matched. And that's what Bragg was really all about. It's something that we kicked off with Autopia. We've actually done 2 Bragg reports. The first one we're going to get into today, and I will allude to the more brand centric work that we did most recently. Steve, if you could jump down, there we go, that slide right there.
Yep.
So what we wanted to do was look at a couple things in the brag report. But as Steve mentioned, here we're looking at, what you can consider really a traditional kind of marketing funnel that all advertisers talk about, where at the top of the funnel, you're really trying to build your awareness. In the middle, you've got, I'm kind of interested in the app. And then at the bottom, the typical measurement of how many apps did you install. And what we tried to do was, again, compare apples and apples, or Davids with Davids and Goliaths with Goliaths. And by doing that, we're looking at the really big brands, the brag leaders that have really big awareness and really big interest and successfully drove a lot of installs, and contrast them with, on the far right of that, the folks that had and this is probably most of the folks on this call, not as much awareness and interest, and therefore not as many installs. And where we focused was the Transcenders. And the Transcenders are the guys that don't really have that huge top of the funnel awareness either. But when you look at that bottom half of that funnel, somehow they exploded at the end. Right there, Steve, you got it. And
Love-
they did something to really outperform the other people that had the same level of awareness in the brand, or the same level of intent. And we called that kind of top of the funnel, those first two layers in this graphic right here, the awareness and the intent. We really called that their growth potential. And we looked at, by
Hmm.
a combination of Atopia data and survey data of users. This was done within the US. How big is that funnel up here going into a quarter? And then we looked at the end of the quarter, who executed against that funnel. Right? That makes sense?
Yeah, no, I love how you guys put this together because I've been talking about this, Greg, for a while now. Where I think a lot of even these brand builders, brag builders that are here, they're so focused on these top and not enough here. When if you even just move this end of installs over here, you can start building revenues. And so I've been saying, like, look, let's focus here. We've been talking about a lot of strategies that focus in on the end of the period installs versus always just looking at the top. But yeah, I love how every chart goes down. Like all these guys are going down, smaller, smaller, smaller. But
Right.
this one just gets
Right.
big, like like the
Yeah,
top.
yeah. So that's exactly what we were trying to do. And let's talk a little bit about kind of what we found in terms of across the 7 categories that we looked at. We didn't look at everything. We didn't look at games, but we looked at news, and we looked at finance, we looked at retail, we looked at I'm missing something,
Healthcare.
CSR. So we looked at not everything, but what we
Yep.
found in looking at probably 140, 150 apps. And most of the apps, I'll be honest, were apps that were fairly big already. So we didn't look at super small apps, but we looked at apps that were already doing pretty well, and then wanted to peel the onion back to find those tactics. And what we found were really 3 different groups of strategies that were being used by folks that were transcenders. Remember, Transcenders funnel looks like this, but then installs that they executed on really blew up. So the first overall strategy that we saw that was consistent across categories is what we call, mobile ecosystem partnerships. And mobile ecosystem partnerships really came in a variety of flavors, but these were folks that integrated their apps into other things happening in the mobile ecosystem. So integrating in, via a carrier or an OEM, and getting your application recommended on those devices outside of the store, recommending it on the device, or integrating into the OS. And there are a couple examples there. Getting integrated into payment platforms, getting integrated into blockchain. Those types of strategies outside of traditional UA spend really had some successes, and we'll come back after I go through the categories and we'll talk about some specific examples. Again, most of those are app names that you might have heard of. Some are smaller, but they all followed that approach. The second and probably increasing thing that we see, and this is again moving more towards the art and more contextual rather than ID based advertising, was offline partnerships. So associating your brand with groups, with fans, with athletes, with teams, with musical artists, with social influencers, and really engaging them to speak the word again in more of a traditional type of word of mouth or influencer type marketing. We saw many examples of success there, rolling in promotions, and we'll talk about one that just kicked off in the last week that is probably extensible and looks interesting. And then the last category of success was what we called at a high level product innovation, and that's really where we saw people adding in exclusive or coveted content that was talked about in viral and in social, adding in novel experiences, creating scarcity so that in order to get access to something that folks wanted, you could only get it via the app, and seeing significant increases in DAOs from that type of fabrication of scarcity, adding in entertainment or information into the app itself. So that's the high level, Steve. I'll pause there before we maybe jump into some of the examples within the categories. But pause there for questions from you, Steve, or do we? Being a first time guest, I'm not sure where we pause for questions, but this might be a good pause point.
It's like you've done this before. I like the pause points. Sometimes I try to have some pause points too. It's like, okay, where else do you want to take it? No, I appreciate that. I want to say hi to a few more people. Ricardo's here, and then Marcos, Steve, you are the man. Marcos, you are the man. And Patrick, what up, fam? Fam, saying for Fridays with that Masters, Greg. I know you're new to the fam, but welcome to the fam. Hey, one thing I want to focus on, because the core of our audience is probably more of the brag builders, right? Kind of like what we showed here. They're going to be more of the brag builders. And so I feel like out of these three things that they can control, like maybe we don't have the budget for these offline partnerships, and we want to break down those strategies for those who do have that potential. And then the mobile ecosystem, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but I think Digital Turbine, that's what you guys were known for, right? Like the on-device integration with everything.
Yeah, prior to no, that's a good prior to the acquisitions of Fiber and Ad Colony and Appreciate,
right.
We were exclusively in that aspect of it. Now right. we're a full stack growth and monetization solution for large and small app developers across the world. But that's true that we have a special mojo in facilitating those things that existed, and they've always existed. You could always do it, right? As a developer, if you had the budget, if you had the channel, we simply make it easier to do.
Yeah, I had
and better, but
I had Matt. I mean, it's old time, but I had you guys back on in 2019. We talked specifically about this. So I wanted to talk more about product-led growth strategy here. So is there a favorite example? I know, I mean, I can pick out a few that I went through the report already that I can pick out too, but do you have a favorite example of a product-led growth for these transcendent brands?
My favorite may not be appropriate for the brands here. Not appropriate as in not PG rated.
Right.
But and it might not have been in this report actually, but Taco Bell did very well in our last kind of brand assessment. But Taco Bell fairly recently added in, and they've done some very interesting things, right? So they did the $10 a month and you get a taco every day. That drove installs. But more recently, they did Mexican. They relaunched Mexican pizza, and if you were a member of the Taco Bell Rewards, then you had access to that. Again, it's the scarcity aspect. You had access to that weeks in advance of the rest of the market, and they drove up daily installs 6x. So that's probably my favorite, being a fan, I have to admit, of Taco Bell. That's probably my favorite. But
I
I
love it.
actually want to go back to a comment you made about not being able to do offline partnerships. Um, a
Oh,
lot of the partnerships that we saw were social media based, and social media comes in all types of sizes and scales, and so I wouldn't rule out investing in offline partnerships through some of the social media tactics. And I've got a couple favorites in that bucket, but I don't want to hijack your question. So hit me up with more product innovation questions if you want.
yeah. I mean, the one that I wanted to talk about too, because one of the, I mean, I recommend everybody going through this report. But one of the things I found out interesting about the report was fitness being, I know I want to make sure I get this right, but it was had the lowest level of awareness and the second lowest level of install intent, and so had the lowest growth potential, which was
Hmm.
shocking to me because I thought, health and fitness, but yeah, that's why I was like, and I know Planet Fitness has been in the top charts, and I have no idea why, Greg, until I saw this report. I was like, oh, okay, this is all making sense. But things of these brag reports, the apps that you guys have in here, were the apps that I consistently see in the top charts. And I was like, what are they doing that are
Yeah,
like
no,
Shein being another one category too? But yeah,
yeah. So that's an interesting one, and thankfully, I actually remember. I know the answer to that off the top of my head, so I don't have to go
yeah,
back to the report. But I believe the case with Planet Fitness is as they, they relaunched their kind of the check-in ability with the mobile phone. And so that was a feature, I believe, that we saw drive additional downloads and use.
yeah.
And obviously, also with COVID, to the extent you're going to go into the gym, you want a little bit more information on what's kind of going on in the gym, and so I think that also helped them drive that back, right?
I love it. Yeah, these are great. Like you can see what they're doing, and I like how Headspace focus on mental health at work, corporate contracts, big, take a long time, but they can be huge. Work with a couple of clients like this, and Sweatcoin. Started noticing this too. Greg, was people were searching for walk for crypto, right? Walk for money. Sweatcoin was doing a pretty good job for it, but then the search
Mhm.
volume started changing. I have to believe Sweatcoin started seeing that, and they're like, "Hey, let's start focusing on the crypto industry too."
Yeah, crypto, in general is a very, very interesting category. And given everything that's happening at the macro level and at the micro level within crypto, there's some things that we're definitely keeping our eye on. Certainly, Cash App or Coin Coinbase is a really interesting one for sure,
Mhm.
with their Super Bowl ad, and we're keeping our eye on it. One interesting thing is, you look at that Super Bowl ad. If you go back and look at their app install volume, US based app install volume over the last couple of quarters, it has halved and then halved again. Right.
Mhm.
So you like kind of what's going, and it halved during this post the Super Bowl ads. But what's interesting is our data has actually shown that while the whole category is getting crunched because of the global issues with inflation and skepticism and dot dot dot, what's interesting is more than any other app, uh, we've seen them actually build their brand. So their growth potential, their awareness, their intent has actually stayed up and grown. So I'm trying to find some numbers here on my screen. Yeah, so they had a massive Q4, Q1. Their installs were down 50%. Q2, they were down again 50%.
Mhm.
Um, but their again top of the funnel metrics are up 250%, better
Wow.
than 4 to 5x better than crypto. And comparing them to some of the other kind of just pure payment apps in the category, they're up over PayPal, up over Venmo, up over Zelle. So, time will tell. And this is exactly the kind of thing that Bragg was made for. Time will tell whether building that brand at the top of the funnel, Steve, will help them kind of bounce back better. But right now, they obviously have some challenges in their core UA growth, as does the
Sorry,
category.
You're talking about Coinbase, right? And I was showing Sweatcoin. I was like, that's the wrong visual for what Greg's talking about.
Yeah, I was talking about Coinbase. You brought up kind of crypto, and I just kind of did the wormhole switch because that
Yeah.
whole category is obviously very interesting these days.
Well, Greg, let's go next to what you were talking about with, hey, brand offline partnerships. Like, it's Steve, maybe I disagree with you, and that's okay. Like, what there are some ways that smaller brands, transcendent brands, can use offline partnerships. So which example would you want to focus in on?
So there are a couple in that category. Some are probably for rarefied air, right? So what Chick-fil-A did with the Tampa Bay Lightning, which was the Stanley Cup winner. We're not going to have too many people ripping off that idea, but let's go a little lower, right? Still probably. I'll start off saying some things that probably most folks can't afford to do, but Cash App. Uh, Trying to make, and this is important, especially for folks that are on the line today, really trying to understand not just growing your users, but what user segment, what specific targeted group you want to go after with a specific target message. So I really like what Cash App did going after the younger market and their TikTok work with Jojo Siwa. Um, Probably not going to pay Odell Beckham's salary if you're a smaller app, but that was very interesting for sure. But they've doubled down on that, and I don't know if folks were aware of this. I'll be honest, I wasn't aware of this either until I had a consultant for this, Steve, and that's my 14-year-old son, kind of helping me out with some of the apps that we were looking at. And I said, "Hey, what's going on with Cash App these days?" And he said, "Oh,
Yeah.
you don't know about the National Cash App Day?" Like, oh, what's that all about? And so using social to drive a promotion that is dependent on getting the brand installed and accounts kind of set up. I think anyone can do that, right? Those typically below the line type of advertising opportunities tied into social. I certainly think we're going to keep a closer eye on that particular tactic and see where else it's being used and how that's driving growth. But certainly that method of offline partnerships via social, and I guess technically you could say it is online, but give me a hall pass on that one. I would say that's an opportunity that folks can look at. And we've seen the impact of that. So not only are they driving great growth, but in our last brag report focusing on brand, Cash App is one of the fastest growing in awareness and intent in the category. So not just installs, but fastest growing awareness and intent in the category. And that promotion that they ran, which is a social promotion, right? Of sharing their message amongst your friends, drove up their week over week installs 18% in the last month.
Wow.
And it's the highest week over week gain going back to all the data that I had was going back all the way to August. And so I literally just looked that up today when I learned about that promotion. And I think those types of promotions, arguably not technically offline, but partially offline because you tell people about it in social and the good old fashioned way. But I think those are certainly things that smaller developers can look at, below the line promotions tying in social.
Yeah, I love it. I did a video, well, it was a podcast episode as well, but I did affiliate marketing for indie developers, and we talked to somebody who was doing these type of promotions. Maybe not a big star like Jojo Siwa, but the app was for marriage counseling and like making it in a more like PG way, spicing up your marriage. And he worked with a lot of people like bloggers, podcasts that you might not know of, but they're niche. And you work with them on an affiliate basis because they were familiar. Great episode if you are trying to get into this, because I do believe it does help accelerate. But yeah, if you have a smaller budget, you can go after the niche people within your target market. All right.
I'll have to find that link. I'd like to watch it myself, actually.
Yeah, I'll send you that. I'll shoot it over after this. I want to save the on device stuff, but is there anything else that you want to cover here before we hit into part 2 of this live stream?
No, I think that's the high level. Anyone certainly listening to this that's interested, drop me a note, and love to chat more with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we'll still cover a lot of stuff. I just want to save some of it for part 2. All right, with part 2, Greg, we start off every part 2 with dad jokes, and so you're the. Wait, I have a thing for this. Hold on. Yeah, I'm back to normal. I was in Fiji for a couple of weeks, and so here we go. There you go. Now, all right, Greg, you're the guest. Do you go off? Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Oh, I'll start. Why not? All right. So this is one of my favorites as a recovering engineer, right? I like the nerdy ones. So I'm going to go with one of my favorite nerdy ones. And that is, what did the dad say to his kid after the kid said for the 5th time, "Dad, I'm cold"?
What?
Go to the corner. It's 90 degrees.
What?
90 degrees, corner.
All right, that is a dad joke for sure.
Yeah, see, I like the nerdy ones. I got more, but
Like
that's one of my as a recovering engineer. That's one of my favorites.
All right, Greg. Why are digital marketers good actors? Why are they good actors? Why are marketers such good actors? Because they nail impressions. All right, there you go. Put G if you thought Greg's joke was better. Put S if you thought my joke was better. I don't know what we're playing for, Greg, but we'll play for something. We should probably come up with something. All right, let's get into some of these things. What's up, Pat? I think I already said hi to you, but Rudy's here, and then Marcos agreed. He said I've been using Cash App for inspiration. All right, let's get into our first app audit, and then we're gonna get into that on-device stuff as well. This is Romano. This app. We did this a couple of weeks ago. I wasn't here, but I wanted to make it up because it wasn't available, and just kind of wanted to they were looking for my advice too. So I wanted to kind of do this again as well. They are maximizing our App Store optimization. I've checked out your ASO guide, done my own research, and looking forward to optimizing as much as possible. Let me open this up. I think you're okay with me sharing this. All right. Yeah, this looks just like my doc. Love it. I love it. Okay, this looks exactly like my doc. Oh, that's funny. All right. So the way I would say this, Romano, is look, you did your research. Great. I think what I would try to focus in on are, especially if you're just one of those what do you guys call it? The builders. You want to focus in on the lower volume. The lower difficulty keywords. And so I've been using App Radar's difficulty score as a measurement of which keywords that I should particularly go after. I also look at the number of apps that show up for a particular keyword for me to kind of decide where I should be using this keyword. So I think you guys have done a good job there. I think you're probably going after money spending tracker or spending tracker. So that's not bad. The other thing that I will take a look at is I know expense tracking and budgeting is super high. One of the things I've been thinking about too, Greg, while we're talking about brand, is coming up with like a term that makes sense. Like Cash App is a great example. I think Calm is a great example. Headspace, things that are relatively related to what my app does, and then like calling it that. So there's one app that we talked to. I won't say what it was, but it was in this space, the budget. And I was like, dude, this is a great name because people are searching for that anyways. So for this might be like, I don't know, monthly budgeting, right? Like something like that. And so your app name is monthly, for example. And so that's how I started thinking about coming up when I'm thinking about apps that are just getting going, or I'm just a brand new app. How do I come up with a name that is so like kind of tied into the main keyword that I'm targeting?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so kind of that linguistic proximity, right? So you kind of nail it. You nail it organically. Yeah.
Yeah. So budget app, it's kind of like budget app, but bill organizer. So it looks like they're going after budget, but you can see they're pretty competitive. in there. So trying to find something around 20 to 30, but that has lower competition. So daily expense tracker might be interesting right here. You've done the keyword research. Balance checkbook might be these interest keywords that I go after because they're lower volume, lower traffic. Sorry. Money tracker. This could be just another app, but this only has one. So these are all keywords that I start thinking about, especially in the early days, instead of going after budget app or spending tracker. These are going to be super competitive for you, Romano. So I wouldn't focus in on those particular keywords quite yet.
Yeah.
Try to build up
I
some
was
volume. This is my, yeah.
I was
Go for it.
wondering, Romano, kind of what the store conversion rate kind of looks like for you once you get in there. And in particular, I did install the app and went
Yeah,
through it
we'll
a
get
little
into
bit,
that.
and really like the kind of step-by-step onboarding process. And one of the questions I had, I'm not, maybe I should be, I'm not really a budgeting type person, but I was wondering what the top 3 or 4 kind of budgeting scenarios are, and can you help convert people on there by kind of specifically addressing a specific pain, right? So, I want to get my body in beach shape. That's goal oriented. Like there's a specific goal. What's the
Mm,
equivalent of that in for folks that are using budgeting apps? And maybe speak to that. There's a screen I think you have in your app that talks about, and there's a great screen, a great screen to get me over the fear of signing up. It was day one, you're going to do this, day two, you're going to get this, day three, you're going to get that. And you used it to really help assuage me not worrying about signing up. But I wondered about your store conversion rate and if maybe something on the use cases for budgeters might help there.
yeah,
I'm
I
not a
love
big
that.
ASO guy, but I did have those questions for you.
That's a great point too, Greg. Because when I saw this say goodbye to budgeting, are we trying to say goodbye? Because this is what we're looking for. So I don't know why you want to say goodbye to budgeting. Like if I'm searching for a budgeting app, like why am I saying goodbye to budgeting? I get that. I think the message is like, hey, we're gonna try to make it easy for budgeting, but I think you're almost trying to be too clever rather than just being clear. What we found is if you're just going after, look at this keyword, right? Like, hey, people want to look for budget. So why are you saying goodbye to it? People are looking for spending tracker and money tracker. So you want to say hello, goodbye to headaches of budgeting, but hello to actual like proper budgeting. And I don't think this like product hunt stuff is that interesting for me, but that's something to play with. I like the social proof, and also might play with the colors a bit because I feel like with budgeting apps, black is kind of weird to see. I mean, if you look at other budgeting apps, they're like bright colors, green. So just think about maybe looking at the UI UX, the App Store presence. But I don't like the messaging here that much. All right.
One
Oh,
very
no pop.
tactical UI UX thing, I did really like the step-by-step process, but I couldn't go back
Hmm.
in the onboarding. And so I literally have to close the app and then open the app again to kind of go back to the previous screen.
Okay. Here's why you need Cashew. Tracks all your spending in real time. Okay. I actually don't like this. I think it's too much text all at once. It's like, this is the first thing I see. Come on. Like, I think what you can do is, again, like track your spending in real time. One of the things that I just recently learned, Greg, was during the onboarding process, you want to try to engage your users, meaning you want to ask them questions. So
Mhm.
it could be, Romano, like, what are you having the most difficult? How are you currently tracking your budgeting? None at all. Spreadsheets, different app, blah, 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 right? Just get some intel. Because then logically, when I was doing this, I saw another app do this. It was Splice. And it's like, what is your video editing experience? And I was like, beginner, intermediate, expert. And I'm like, I felt like the app was going to customize everything for me just because they asked me that. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I don't know, but we know that data says, hey, if you ask some questions in the very beginning and get the user engaged, they're more likely to convert into a paying customer anyways. I just think it's too much upfront. It's like too much going on right now. And I don't know where my eye should go. So let's get this.
That's
Analyze your
interesting,
income.
Steve. Yeah, that's interesting. Like I kind of wonder if if I'm getting a budgeting app, is it because I need to save up money and I haven't been able to save for something? Or is it save in
Right.
general? Or is it that, oh my God, I have another issue, which is I'm going into negative balances in my checking account. And to your point, maybe there's the ability to kind of ask a handful of questions up front to really and actually in the text in the store as well to try to guide the user to the real value prop of the app.
I love it. Romano says the whole idea of the app is to get away from restricted budgets and endless categorization. I like it. Then talk about that. Like lean
Hmm.
into your main thing. All right.
Hmm.
It's like having a personal accountant and can I afford this? Okay. Love that. Right. Like, can I afford this? So I like this screen the best out of all the ones that you've showed me so far. And Romano and them,
Yeah,
they
I
were
would
able to give me this is a test. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
I would love, as you said, social validation after that slide that you just said you liked so much with the person there. Like having that personal advisor, how has it helped me? It helped me improve my credit because I didn't draw down. It
Mm,
helped me save for my vacation that I always wanted. It helped me, you know, you know, give my mom the vacation she ever like. What are and I don't know what they are, but what are those aspirational things that budget app users are striving for when they go download a budget app?
I mean, I have to think it's like dream house, dream vacation. I mean, those are two things that come to my mind. Let's get your info set up. What should we call
That's
you?
big budget right there.
I know that's a big budget. College, maybe. Okay. So, Romano, if you want your stuff, it's better just to show this rather than do a two tap. So I'm gonna hit don't allow, but you want to you want to just show it versus anything. I'm using my older phone, but okay. Control center, no more financial anxiety. I like that. Okay. I don't have data on this, but I don't like that those three screens. I almost so Greg, I've been talking about like longer pricing pages performing better, and they kind of split up this longer pricing pages into the three different slides. Maybe this is what you're talking about. I like how you broke it down, but I couldn't go back. That's why. Or you're about all the other screens. Anyways, Greg, I don't know if Greg can hear me or not, but
No,
what I was going to
I'm
say.
sorry. You broke up on my end. Sorry.
Okay. So like you said you love these screens, but I couldn't go back. Was it these screens that you were talking about that
It
we're looking
was.
at?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So I love that insight that Greg just sent because Romano, the reason why I've been saying longer pricing pages are outperforming, one, we know that it's true on the web. Two, the time that I do want to read is when I'm about to pay you. And so because you broke it out, this long pricing page into four different separate screens, I don't know what I just read. I can't remember everything anymore. And so it's like, and Greg said it, I wish I could go back. And I'm like, this is why we say longer pricing pages so that people can read. But you're making read in three different things. I can't remember what happened yesterday. Why are you doing that? I feel passionately about this. Put it all on one page. Stop breaking up to 4 pages. Okay. And they said I am breaking up, so I apologize. I think my wife's on the Peloton. That's probably why. She's eating up my internet. But put it on one long page. Don't do this. Don't break it out into 4 different pages. All right. Anything you want to add here? Sorry. All right. I'm sorry. Greg, anything? you want to add
Oh,
your
no, that's it. Thanks.
All right, cool. Oh, one other thing I would say is, Romano, test out longer trials. I think for a budgeting app, people might need just more time to get used to it, right? If you think about, I think I did a look at the video I did with YNAB. You need a budget, and how they're doing it. I think they do it. They do a 30-day trial. I'm not sure, but a 3-day trial seems super short for a budgeting app. I have clients who are actually doing pretty well from a install to conversion perspective. 14 days. It was long, but it's actually working out for them. So I think a 14-day, 7-day, even a 30-day might be interesting app. Like I need to go through a longer cycle to really start figuring out, do I want to use you or not? So I don't know what those conversion rates are, the install to trial, but that's what I would be testing, the onboarding and this trial perspective to get that number up. So if you want to put that in the comments, that would be interesting. And then the last thing I will say, Greg, is this 31% conversion rate, store fuse to installs, sucks. So get that up to the 50 mark. And that's where we talked about with the screenshots and stuff. So Romano, you got to get that number up. Yeah. All right. Sorry for breaking up. Greg, can you hear me now?
I got you. Got me?
Okay, because this is really important. All right. We got the scores from round 1.
Uh-oh.
And you're gonna love it, but you win. So it was almost a clean sweep. A lot of G's. I got 1. Mike, thank you, Mike. I appreciate you. You won that last one. Hey, Greg, so I did want to talk to you about the on-device stuff. I know that's the last thing that we didn't talk about in the brag report. Is there a favorite example that you have for this? I know digital your suite of UA, but one of the things was helping, we talked about this with LinkedIn too, but helping these companies, and they tend to be bigger companies, Greg, like correct me if I'm wrong, but with like getting their apps on a device so that when somebody buys a device, it's like, boom, you're right there already, ready to go. So this thing.
Yeah, so I think one of the most pronounced impacts can be seen within the news category. If you wanted to jump into that
Yeah,
one,
well,
I think that's the one that's most interesting and really the most disruptive as well. So we all know that we get our news from different places these days than we did 10, 15 years ago. And, Facebook was never known as a place to get news from, but because it's convenient and it's on every phone, 50, 60% of people get their quote unquote news from, a social media app. So what that's showing is that there's not a tremendous amount of brand loyalty for something that is kind of a commodity type of offering or solution. So, what's interesting, if you go to the what we call the brag box, which may be 1 or 2 slides before that, Steve, right there, you,
right.
you can see,
Right
if you
here.
can
This one?
zoom
Right
in that one. Yeah, if you can zoom in and you see at the top of that green box there, I don't know if it gets large enough, but you can see Newsbreak right there, just such a
here.
massive outlier in terms of how many installs it got compared to the other apps. And if you look at it, that app, Newsbreak, which you can do a quick poll of the audience. I'm not sure if that many people know. Did you know that app, Steve?
I know that app. We look at that app for when we have clients that are in the news category, but yeah, I knew of that app.
Yeah, so it had with 1,000 news users in the U.S. right, as part of the survey, it had one of the lowest overall awareness and interest. But that particular app drove 7 times the installs than CNN, 8 times the installs of the New York Times or even Fox, and more importantly, has 100 times the Dow of any of those guys. Yeah, it's like, how the heck is that happening? And the answer is, product sampling, and we make it easy. So by simply putting this product on a new Samsung device as an option for a user to use or throw away, you can think of it as product sampling. And folks try the app, The app is very good, high quality, good personalization, but this concept of product sampling for driving interest, awareness, and actual usage is a model that's supported. Kind of that's the offline equivalent, right? We all know walking into
Mm,
Costco, we may never get that piece of smoked Gouda. We may never walk down that aisle to get it, but if there's someone on the end handing it to Steve on a toothpick, handing it to Greg on a toothpick, like, wow, that's pretty good. And they know that that will drive the traffic and the use. And
yeah.
that's a good metaphor for the ability to find another channel that just puts your app in front of people. And it doesn't always work. And the attribution windows are very different. But in this world of, very competitive media, very expensive media, these types of channels, whether done directly through a carrier, which is very expensive and requires a lot of budget, or through the providers, and there are multiple companies like Digital Turbine that can do that type of kind of quote unquote product sampling for you. It makes a lot of sense. And so that's a great
Right.
example. But we also did a lot of work with Cash App as well, right? And we put them on millions and millions and millions of devices. Everyone knows it, and we can't say that we can take full credit for it, but certainly their top of the funnel metrics are up near 200% over the time that we've been working with them. So big and small product sampling, we've all experienced it in the offline world. There are the equivalents in the digital mobile world, and it works.
Yeah. I remember talking to people. I'm not an expert at this. So I remember it not being that expensive because if you think about from a cost per install perspective, it's actually a lot lower than some of the other channels that these bigger brands or these brands are running on.
It can be for sure. Obviously, it depends on the efficiency of either buy and size, but it is certainly not more expensive than the other channels. It is highly competitive, and it's a channel that if you have an application that the broader you're targeting, the better. Niche applications don't work nearly as well. There are ways to use this technology for more niche solutions, but if from a gaming perspective, from a wide demographic, wide socioeconomic targeted application, there are many ways that you can use on-device technology and what we call app discovery, right?
Mhm.
As opposed to, like, I discovered the Gouda on aisle 6. I would not have gone to the cheese aisle, but I discover it. And in this
Right.
world of, too many ads everywhere, this idea of discovery and all of the techniques that support discovery are increasingly important.
Yeah. I like this example too. Apple. You gotta love Apple. Like, all right, hey, we're gonna put we bought Shazam, we're gonna put it on the control center
Yeah,
as
that's,
well.
that's a great one. I mean,
You
look at Apple News. Forget about Newsbreak. Look at Apple News. It's a top
I
five
know.
news app. Why? Why? Right, sure,
Right.
it's got good content, yeah, it's got great publishing partners, but why? Because it's on every phone, and with a swap and a
Yeah,
type, you're staring at it on your far left screen and today, right? So that's gonna drive the adoption and usage and the DAOs and the revenue and everything else.
that's
Convenience
so true.
matters. Almost every other industry has been transformed by taking the friction out, right? Amazon one click takes the friction out. Uber takes the
Yep.
friction out of the delivery business, right? And you don't have to pull your wallet out. If you can take the friction out of getting your thing in front of or used by a consumer, you're going to win. And that's really the passion of the company, to simplify the ability of getting folks that want eyeballs to folks that want new interesting applications. And that's one way to think about on-device technology.
I love it. Yeah, it's been around for so long. You remember Windows back in the I'm
Yeah,
a Mac user now,
yeah,
but, like, even Mac,
yeah.
there's a bunch of stuff already loaded, so I love that. Okay, Romano gave us some download to paying customers around 5%. That's awesome. And
Mm.
then his downloaded trials 30%, trial to paid is 20%. You probably want to get that up a little bit more. That's why I was thinking the longer trial period, maybe trying with that, Romano. Now I know that your stats. I think the first test I would do is that downloaded trial is pretty high. So maybe that trial to paid is what I would try to figure out how do we get more. Maybe it's that 3 days just too short of a window for us to test out a
Mm.
budgeting app there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
good
all right.
match. Yeah, interesting.
Raul is here, and then Raul asks, "Hi Steve, do you know any iOS simulator for Windows?" No, I don't. Sorry, Greg. You got an answer for that?
No, sorry.
Yeah. I agree. All right, Greg. I gotta make up for round one performance, so I'm ready for round two. You ready for round two?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. You want to go first? You want me to go first again?
Oh, losers go first, I guess. I'm kidding.
All right. It's a nerdy one. I hope you have
Is
another nerdy one. So this is the audience. Like we're all nerds here, and so like you're just gonna love the nerdy ones. All right, Greg. So, what is a digital marketer's favorite kind of cake?
Ooh.
All right, it is a funnel cake.
Can't believe I didn't get
I don't
that
know.
one.
I
I
don't know
got
if
to
this
tell
is
you,
easy for you.
much respect on the thematic dad jokes. You know, I'm going to give you the nod on the win just for having two about our industry. I love them.
I've
I
been
love
doing
them.
this for a long time, Greg. It was just random dad jokes, and then I was like, "Hey, what if I made it thematic?" That's all.
Oh, shit. If I'd known, I would have tried, but I would definitely have lost that one. I'm not only a recovering engineer, but I'm a big movie fan, and one of my fans I'm going to put into this dad joke. Right. So,
Okay.
what do you call it when Dwayne Johnson buys a new cutting tool?
What?
Rock, paper, scissors.
That's a good one. All right, you get the win. Forget the voting. That's a good one. I love that one. That's a good one. I'm gonna see that one. I love that one. All right, that's a good one.
Oh,
Let's
silly. I
get
know. I know.
into
I have
Marco's.
14 years experience of annoying my son, so a bit of a head start, maybe.
Me too. I got a 14-year-old son too. He just
Oh, there
recently
you
turned
go.
14.
There you go.
Yeah, to get it. All right, Marco. I think this is the same Marco I've been saying hi to. He's like general overview, UI, UX, idea. All right, idea. Great. I think idea wise, people are looking for something like this. I know there's volume for cover letter builder, resume builder, things like that. I mean, TikTok would probably be a great venue for you when you're trying to find people. They might just be the right audience on there on TikTok. But yeah, we did a video on this, Marco, I mean, you guys are kind of competing, but an onboarding flow where what you don't have in this is like people are trying to win get an interview. They're trying to land the job. So talk about that. Like what Greg said too. What are the aspirations? Lean into those aspirations from using your app, not just the fact that you have beautiful templates, all that junk. That's what makes you win the interview, but we actually want to win the interview, not necessarily use your beautiful templates. Right. So, anything you want to add here just from the App Store presence, Craig?
Yeah, so this was another great one, and probably more perfect for my son. Hey, bud, you got to get a summer job at some point. You're gonna have to put together an application. Help me out. Let's both go through this. And again, I really like the ideas. It's been a long, long time since I made my resume, and certainly for my first
Yep.
resume. But I really like the idea. There were a couple things that my son and I both had a reaction to, and we've got some crazy thoughts about what we might want to do about it. But the coin thing kind of struck me and struck my kid as a little bit divergent from the message of the app itself. Kind of felt
Hmm.
more game centric and kind of kid like. But we thought that maybe there's more of a job market kind of metaphor that you could use with coins, more like wages, and you could do certain things to earn those wages, and then use those wages to facilitate and get more things inside of the app. So we like the idea of this kind of virtual currency, but the branding and the look and feel kind of struck both of us as something that was a little divergent from the brand perception we think he wanted to go after. And in terms of maybe some longer term features and functionality that might be woven in, like going back to those kind of social tie-ins that we spoke about. We were wondering if, there's a way. Is there a peer review and peer, like, could you connect people to, as you were saying, Steve, I got an interview, right? I would love to just talk to someone
Mhm.
that has the same problem, and can you connect folks up and kind of bounce things off each other? Or is it there a promotion kind of thing where you could submit, your uh, your resume and have it reviewed by more of your friends, and have that
Yep.
as kind of a more viral way to, in the same way that Cash App did. Are there things you could do to help spread the app by bringing in a peer social capability? Because I know when I made my first resume, I showed it to everybody, and I wanted everybody's feedback, and that was
Yeah.
not easy, right? But if there's an easy way to do that inside of an app, that would be great. And then harder to do, probably. I'm a recovering engineer, but it doesn't mean I'm technical anymore. Can you kind of tie that into how people apply to jobs now through LinkedIn postings? And is there a way to facilitate what I just made and tie it back into, or pull in kind of LinkedIn offers? But those are some of the thoughts.
Yeah. I like it. And I'm kind of leaning towards, now that we've seen a couple apps in a row where they allow me to hit next, but I want to go back and I can't go back. So one thing I noticed, Marco, was you put best resume. Like, again, we want to land the interview, we want to land the job. So best resume. I like best, but like, I think you want to stand out to this. I love screen, kind of like what Greg said. Hey, our experts are going to help you stand out from other candidates. So I like that. Boost your career and get your dream job. Finally, you're leaning into this. Okay. Yeah. So this is good. You just ask. All
Like
right. And
there's
this
that
is where we're
fear.
talking
I was going
these
to say there's
coins.
that. Yeah. Hmm.
So for an app like this, I honestly think you should just charge a subscription and just be done with it. I mean, this sort of complicates things. And I know you're talking to probably somebody who may, maybe a student, maybe not, but like, I think I would lean to, I don't want monetization. I know this took probably more work to do this, but I don't know what any of these coins mean. So let's create my resume. See, yeah, I think you should just lean into just charging people either a year or 3 months. Yeah, see, it gets really weird after a while.
Yeah, I would love to know if I'm going to pay it in here. I would love to know that I'll be able to get feedback, because that's the most important thing, I think, right? Um, when I was younger, like, never written one before. Who do I go to? How do I, where do I find kind of role models for this? Um, Obviously, more work from a tech perspective, but that's valuable. And I'd love the kind of tie-ins in here that you could go see the other jobs that were available, right? So I think that's the lower right-hand corner. My eyes aren't that good. I left my bionic eye at home, but that you could see some of the job. I actually typed in, digital advertising in New York. I'm like, oh, look at that. Some real jobs were coming up. So I thought that was really neat. But it would be neat if there would be some way to kind of tie people together of like-minded, and have them kind of chat back and forth. But it's that kind of glue, that aspirational glue that you were talking about, Steve, that I think would make the app a little more interesting. Yeah. The way
Yeah,
that I
I was
kind of
trying to
thought about it
find.
is, there's a lot of. Yep, go ahead.
No, no, go, please finish.
There's a lot of great information in here on what the app does. Not less about, I'm talking now specifically about the App Store content, less about
Mm.
how this app can help you get to where you really want to be, and then along those same lines, maybe there's some features that could be added inside of the app to kind of facilitate me getting to that next job or feeling more comfortable getting to that next job or the interview.
This looks like it's a affiliate thing, which I like. So it's another way that you can make money as an app developer. Look at that. That's really cool. Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's an affiliate deal. One thing from a UI perspective, I'll just say too, is when I'm doing a search in these oh man. Yeah, I don't like these things. Okay. When I'm doing a search for this stuff right here, find work, it says research. I would just say search or go. Like, don't make it confusing. So I was like, research, what does that mean? And then I love everything else. I think I would try to move to a subscription model. I'm trying to give you some data too. I don't like just going off of opinions, Greg, but like, I think data wise, you got to look at the top, like your competitors. And I'm going to assume that a lot of your competitors are probably charging just a subscription fee. And think about like a 3-month, because like, how long do I want to be job searching for? There's this report by Adapti. We did this YouTube live stream a couple of weeks ago, but one of the big things for me, big takeaways that I learned was the LTV of a 3-month, let me find it. The LTV chart. Yeah, here we go. Of a 3-month and then a weekly user was actually higher than the LTV of a yearly, which was surprising. I've had many clients tell me that weekly does well, and I just never believed them, Greg. But I was like, what? Okay.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And if you think about a resume builder or a career, it's not going to be long, hopefully, that I've been using this app. So think about a 3-month, 6-month plan that just, it's easier from an end user perspective too. And your shop makes it super confusing, Marco, right now. I don't know what to buy, what coins to buy. So I think I would consider doing these type of things, the LTV or the 3-month to 6-month package.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. That otherwise pretty good app. It's a little confusing, but yeah, otherwise great job. I'm curious to see how much money he makes from these courses. People buy anything. Okay. Greg, this was amazing. So Digital Turbine is the website. Yeah. Again, they've got the complete mobile UA stack from monetization to growth to everything that you might need. It's all combined now with Added Colony and Fiber, all that stuff. And so go check it out. It is digitalturbine.com, digitalturbine.com. A lot of stuff here that Greg covered. Greg, anything that I missed before we say goodbye?
No, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Have a great weekend, and we'll stay in touch about our swimming exercises.
That's awesome. Well, Greg, congrats on the win. I owe you something. I don't know what that is, but you tell me. Any favor that you need, you let me know. But I owe you something for winning those dad jokes rounds. But again, it is digitalturbine.com. Go check out that brag index. A lot of great information in there, especially if you're trying to figure out, okay, I have a brand now. I'm on the cusp of this, like really making it big. Those are some strategies that you can really figure out to make it and get you into these well-known brands like the Amazon, Netflix, the Googles, and Apples of the world. Greg, if the audience wants to follow up with you and say thank you personally, do you want to send them anywhere else?
You could just hit me up on an email, greg.wester@digitalturbine.com. I promise to get back to you.
All right. Well, Greg's LinkedIn is linked up into the description as well if you want to check out his LinkedIn and connect with him there. Greg, thank you so much for coming on and doing this.
Thank you, Steve. Have a great weekend, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Adrian, thanks for showing up. Next week, we got a great indie developer, and we're going to talk about, might not share his app because it's getting competitive out there, but we're going to talk about some of the strategies that led to his growth. I love talking to indies. So join us next Friday at 9 a.m. I'm back, baby. Feeling refreshed from the Fiji trip. Last week I was a little bit off, but I'm back to normal this week. Greg, thank you guys. Thank you so much again. And you guys have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.